Welcome to a chapter a day. Listen carefully. Hear the instructions. For years, manifestation has been misunderstood, romanticized, and weakened by people who needed it to feel mystical instead of mechanical. But manifestation is not magic. It is not luck. And it is not something you wait for. Manifestation is already happening. Right now. In your life. In every area you call stuck. The only question is this. Are you directing it? Or is it running on autopilot? Everything you have, your income, your relationships, your energy level, your confidence, was once a thought you repeated until it became normal. Normal thinking creates normal results. Abnormal thinking creates nothing unless it becomes normal too. This audiobook will not ask you to believe. It will ask you to understand. Because once you understand the mechanics, belief becomes irrelevant. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you expect. You manifest what you tolerate. You manifest what feels normal to you. And the moment something feels normal, it must show up. Over the next chapters, you will learn why manifestation feels slow, why effort backfires, why visualization fails most people, and why the fastest manifestations happen when you stop trying to make them happen. This is not about becoming someone new. This is about removing the resistance to who you already are. By the end of this audiobook, you will not be hoping for change. You will be waiting for confirmation. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The true definition of manifestation. Manifestation is not creation. That is the first correction. You are not here to create anything new. Nothing is missing. Nothing is absent. Nothing needs to be built from scratch. Manifestation is selection. You are selecting from realities that already exist. You are tuning into outcomes that are already available. You are aligning with versions of life that are already formed. Reality does not respond to desire. Reality responds to expectation. This is where most people lose years. They think wanting is power. They think hoping is movement. They think effort bends reality. It does not. Reality rearranges itself around what you expect to experience next. Not what you wish for. Not what you visualize intensely. Not what you affirm desperately. Expectation is the command. And expectation is built through familiarity. Reality follows familiarity. Say it again. Reality follows familiarity. Whatever feels normal to you internally will eventually feel inevitable externally. This is why manifestation looks unfair. This is why it appears inconsistent. This is why two people can apply the same technique and receive opposite results. Because technique does not select reality. Normality does. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. That is not a moral statement. It is a mechanical one. Needing implies unfamiliarity. Needing implies separation. Needing implies that the thing you want is not normal to you. And reality reflects that immediately. Your frequency is a product code. The frequency you are currently within is the product code of the reality you are living. Not the frequency you visit for 5 minutes in the morning. Not the frequency you touch during a meditation. The frequency you return to as baseline. That baseline is what reality prints. This is why people recreate the same income level over and over again. Someone gets a promotion. Their income doubles. Externally, everything has changed. Internally, nothing has. So what happens? They increase expenses. They attract new problems. They lose the opportunity. They self-sabotage without realizing it. Not because they are broken. Not because they are unworthy. Because their internal sense of what feels normal did not shift. Reality followed familiarity. A person who internally expects to earn $60,000 a year will unconsciously find ways to return there, even if they briefly touch $120,000. Expectation is gravity. This is why manifestation is not about thinking positive. It is about becoming familiar. And familiarity is emotional not intellectual. You can understand abundance and still repel it. You can read every book and still live in scarcity. Because knowledge does not change frequency. Identity does. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time. Looking for methods. Looking for permission. Looking for someone else to choose you. But selection happens internally first. An entrepreneur who knows their business will succeed moves differently than someone who hopes. They speak with calm certainty. They make decisions without desperation. They attract investors, partners, and employees naturally. Not because they force confidence, because confidence is familiar. Their internal normal is success. And reality follows familiarity. Contrast that with someone who wants success. They over-explain. They rush. They hesitate. They chase validation. Same actions on paper. Different frequency underneath. And frequency is the product code. This is why manifestation is not about effort. Effort often signals disbelief. Trying hard is usually the nervous system saying, "This is not normal yet." The people who have the most need it the least, because needing would contradict their internal normal. This is why athletes who expect to win train differently. They don't train with anxiety. They don't train with panic. They train with inevitability. Winning feels familiar before the race starts. So when the moment comes, their body follows the expectation it already knows. Reality follows familiarity. The same is true socially. A person who internally assumes they are likable behaves openly. They make eye contact. They speak without tension. They listen without fear. Others respond positively, not because of technique, but because the assumption shapes behavior. Internal state selects external response. Manifestation is not mystical. It is behavioral alignment driven by expectation. And expectation is shaped by repetition, not affirmations. Exposure. Whatever you repeatedly experience internally becomes normal. Whatever becomes normal becomes invisible. Whatever is invisible stops being questioned. And what is not questioned becomes real. This is why discipline matters. It's about discipline, not discipline to force results. Discipline to guard your internal baseline. Discipline over what you tolerate emotionally. Discipline over what you normalize mentally. Discipline over the stories you rehearse. Your inner dialogue is not harmless. It is rehearsal, and rehearsal creates familiarity. This is where most people go wrong. They try to manifest outcomes without disciplining identity. They visualize wealth while rehearsing scarcity. They affirm confidence while normalizing self-doubt. They want love while expecting abandonment. Reality hears the expectation, not the words. Your frequency is a product code, and the system always delivers the matching product. So what do? You stop asking how to get, and you start asking what feels normal. Does peace feel normal to you? Does abundance feel casual? Does respect feel expected? If not, that is where the work is. Not in forcing belief. In repetition of experience. You begin to act as someone for whom the result is ordinary. Not exaggerated. Not excited. Ordinary. Because excitement implies novelty. And novelty implies unfamiliarity. Reality follows familiarity. This chapter is the foundation. Until you understand that manifestation is selection, not creation, you will keep pushing instead of aligning. You don't bend reality. You tune into it. You don't attract what you want. You attract what matches your normal. And once that clicks, the struggle ends. You've defined manifestation correctly. Now it's time to see how it's already running your life. You understand the mechanism. Now, let's look at the evidence. Chapter 2. Manifestation is already happening. Manifestation is not something you turn on. It is something you notice. You are not manifesting sometimes. You are manifesting constantly. Every thought you return to, every emotion you normalize, every reaction you repeat, All of it is selection. This is the second correction most people must make. They believe manifestation begins when they decide to do it consciously. They think it starts with affirmations, visualization, or intention. It does not. Manifestation began long before you were aware of it, and it never stopped. You are manifesting 24 hours a day. The only difference is whether you are aware of what you're selecting. And awareness is control. Say it clearly. Awareness is control. If you don't know what you're signaling, you don't control what you receive. Reality doesn't need your permission to respond. It only needs your frequency. Your frequency is a product code. The frequency you are currently within is the product code of the reality you are living, not the frequency you aspire to, the frequency you occupy most often. This is why most people don't fail at manifestation. They succeed. They succeed at manifesting what they complain about. They succeed at manifesting what they rehearse emotionally. They succeed at manifesting what feels familiar, even if they say they hate it. Reality does not listen to preference. It listens to repetition. Look closely. Someone says, "I always struggle with money," and money continues to struggle with them. Someone says, "People never take me seriously," and life continues to mirror that back. Someone says, "Nothing ever works out for me," and nothing ever seems to. Not because words are magic, but because attention creates familiarity, and familiarity creates expectation, and expectation selects reality. Reality follows familiarity. This is not punishment. This is not karma. This is not judgment. It is feedback. Reality is showing you what you are repeatedly assuming is true. This is where responsibility enters, but not blame. Responsibility is power. Blame is weakness. The moment you realize that manifestation is already happening, you stop waiting for a breakthrough. You start observing patterns. What do you expect when you wake up in the morning? What do you assume when a challenge appears? What do you internally predict before conversations, meetings, or decisions? Those micro-assumptions are commands, and most of them are unconscious. That's the real issue. Unconscious manifestation. A person might say they want abundance, but internally expect bills, stress, and limitation. A person might say they want love, but internally expect disappointment or rejection. Which signal do you think reality responds to? Expectation beats intention every time. The people who have the most need it the least, and the people who need it the most have the least. Because need is not neutral. Need is loud. Need says, "This is not normal for me." And reality agrees. Awareness is control. Once you become aware of what you're manifesting unconsciously, the game changes. Because now you're no longer at the mercy of your habits. You see them, and what you can see, you can interrupt. This is why complaining is so expensive. Complaining is rehearsal. Every time you complain, you are emotionally re-experiencing the thing you say you don't want. You are strengthening familiarity. You are telling your nervous system, "This is normal. Remember this." And reality follows familiarity. This is why two people can face the same circumstance and manifest opposite outcomes. One person sees a problem and expects expansion. Another sees the same problem and expects failure. Same event, different expectation, different reality. An entrepreneur who encounters setbacks but internally assumes success keeps moving forward calmly. They adjust. They refine. They persist without panic. Another entrepreneur encounters the same setbacks and internalizes them as proof of failure. They hesitate. They overthink. They withdraw. Same market. Same tools. Different manifestation. The difference is not effort. It's expectation. And expectation is built unconsciously through repetition. This is why awareness is control. When you become aware of your internal reactions, you stop being surprised by your external results. You start seeing the link. Oh, that's why that keeps happening. Oh, That's what I've been expecting. Oh, that's what feels normal to me. This is not about judging yourself. This is about calibration. You are not wrong. You are just consistent. And consistency creates reality. This is why manifestation teachings fail when they skip awareness. People try to overlay positivity on top of unconscious patterns. They affirm abundance while rehearsing fear. They visualize success while expecting disappointment. And then they say manifestation doesn't work. It works perfectly, just not in the way they thought. Reality follows familiarity. Your nervous system is the gatekeeper. It allows what feels safe. It resists what feels unfamiliar. So if chaos feels familiar, calm will feel uncomfortable. If struggle feels familiar, ease will feel suspicious. Until familiarity shifts, results won't stick. This is why awareness comes first. Not techniques, not methods. Awareness. You begin by watching your thoughts without correcting them. You observe your emotional reactions without suppressing them. You notice what you expect. Expectation is quiet. It's subtle. It often sounds like, "Here we go again." That sentence alone manifests more than most affirmations ever will. Awareness is control. Once you are aware, you stop feeding patterns unconsciously. You pause before reacting. You choose neutrality instead of drama. You withdraw attention from what you don't want to reinforce. And that withdrawal is powerful. Attention is currency. Where attention goes, familiarity grows. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Not discipline to force change. Discipline to stop reinforcing the old. This is how manifestation accelerates. Not by adding more effort, but by removing unconscious repetition. When you stop rehearsing scarcity, abundance becomes possible. When you stop rehearsing rejection, connection becomes natural. When you stop rehearsing failure, success becomes familiar. Reality follows familiarity. This chapter is about recognition. You are not waiting to manifest. You are watching it unfold. And once you see it, you can no longer unsee it. You've realized that manifestation isn't something you start doing. It's something you've been doing all along. Now the question becomes sharper. If manifestation is always happening, and awareness gives control, what happens when you consciously choose what feels normal? You've seen the process. Now it's time to understand the system behind it. You've observed the effect. Now let's break down the machine. Chapter 3. Manifestation as a system, not a spiritual event. Manifestation is not a spiritual event. It is a system. It does not happen when the universe feels generous. It does not wait for alignment ceremonies. It does not respond to pleading, hoping, or wishing. It responds to inputs. Every system does. When the right inputs are entered, the output is guaranteed. When the wrong inputs are repeated, the output is equally guaranteed. Reality is no different. The mistake most people make is treating manifestation like a mood instead of a machine. They wait to feel inspired. They wait to feel ready. They wait for signs. But systems don't care how you feel about them. They respond to consistency. Manifestation works the same way. Input goes in. Output comes out. No exceptions. Your frequency is a product code. The frequency you are currently within is the product code of the reality you are living. Not the frequency you talk about. The frequency you operate from. This is why manifestation is predictable. If you know the inputs, you can predict the output. If you want to change the output, you change the inputs. Not by force, by precision. Emotion is the fuel. Expectation is the steering wheel. Without fuel, nothing moves. Without steering, movement is chaotic. Most people pour emotional energy into outcomes they don't expect. They want success, but emotionally rehearse failure. They want love, but emotionally prepare for loss. They want wealth, but emotionally expect stress. So the system responds accurately. Fuel is present. Steering is misaligned. The vehicle moves, just not where they want. Reality follows familiarity. Emotion fuels what you repeatedly feel. Expectation determines where that energy goes. This is why affirmations fail when they are emotionally empty. Words without emotion are neutral inputs. They don't move the system. And emotion without expectation creates anxiety. That's why people feel exhausted after trying to manifest. They are revving the engine without steering. Effort without expectation burns energy. Expectation without effort feels natural. This is where high performers separate from everyone else. Look at elite athletes. They don't affirm winning all day. They don't beg the universe for medals. They don't emotionally oscillate between hope and fear. They expect to perform well. That expectation is quiet, calm, unremarkable. Winning feels familiar before the event. So when pressure arrives, their nervous system doesn't panic. It recognizes the situation as normal, and reality follows familiarity. A sprinter doesn't need to visualize victory frantically. They train until success feels ordinary. Their body knows the outcome before the race begins. Expectation is trained through repetition. This is why manifestation is not spiritual, it's neurological. Your nervous system decides what feels safe, what feels normal, what feels allowed, and reality mirrors that. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Because need disrupts the system. Need introduces urgency. Urgency introduces fear. Fear hijacks steering. The system still responds, but now it outputs resistance. This is why calm confidence outperforms desperation every time. A performer who expects applause moves differently than one who hopes for approval. Their posture changes. Their timing improves. Their presence expands. Same stage. Same audience. Different outcome. Expectation is invisible, but undeniable. This is why manifestation accelerates when you stop making it emotional. Emotion is fuel, not direction. When emotion is calm and expectation is clear, reality reorganizes effortlessly. This is what people call flow. Flow is not mystical. It is system coherence. Fuel and steering aligned. This is also why hustle often backfires. Hustle is emotional effort without expectation. It says, if I push hard enough, something must happen. But systems don't reward effort. They reward alignment. An entrepreneur who expects success doesn't grind blindly. They move decisively. They delegate confidently. They invest without panic. They don't attach emotionally to every outcome. They expect progress. An expectation keeps the system clean. Someone who hustles from fear floods the system with noise. Too many actions. Too much force. Too little clarity. And the output becomes inconsistent. Reality follows familiarity. The familiar internal state always wins. This is why manifestation teachings that focus only on mindset fail. Mindset without system awareness creates confusion. You must know what role each component plays. Thought introduces possibility. Emotion fuels motion. Expectation selects direction. Identity stabilizes output. Skip any piece, and the system wobbles. This is where discipline enters. It's about discipline. Not discipline to work harder. Discipline to maintain clean inputs. Discipline over emotional reactions. Discipline over assumptions. Discipline over what you repeatedly expect. You don't need to control everything. You need to control what you return to. That baseline becomes the system's default. And defaults are powerful. Once something is set as default, the system keeps producing it automatically. This is why manifestation feels effortless to those who understand it. They are not trying to manifest. They are operating a system they already calibrated. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time. Looking for techniques. Looking for permission. Looking for signs. But systems don't need permission. They need correct inputs. and you are the input. This chapter removes mystery. Manifestation is not spiritual favoritism. It is not cosmic luck. It is mechanical, which means it is learnable, repeatable, predictable. Once you see it as a system, emotion stops ruling you. You stop reacting. You start adjusting. And adjustment is power. You now understand the machine. But one piece remains. If manifestation is a system, and systems respond to expectation, where does expectation come from? It comes from identity. You've seen the system. Now it's time to meet the operator. Chapter 4. Why wanting pushes it away. Wanting is not neutral. That is the first truth of this chapter. Wanting is not harmless. Wanting is not hopeful. Wanting is not a stepping stone. Wanting is a signal. And the signal says, this is not here. Reality does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you are confirming as absent. This is why wanting delays. Wanting confirms lack. And lack cannot produce abundance. Not because abundance is cruel, but because systems respond to accuracy. Reality is extremely literal. If your internal state says, I don't have this yet, reality says, correct. And it keeps it that way. This is where most people get trapped. They believe desire is power. They believe intensity equals speed. They believe wanting more will get more. It doesn't. Wanting is chasing, and chasing assumes distance. You don't chase what you expect. Say it clearly. You don't chase what you expect. You don't chase your name being called. You don't chase the sun rising. You don't chase gravity. Expectation removes urgency, and urgency is the enemy of reception. The nervous system cannot chase and receive at the same time. This is not philosophy. This is biology. Chasing activates the stress response. Receiving requires safety. The body cannot be in fight or flight and openness simultaneously. So when you want something desperately, your nervous system hears danger. It hears, this matters too much. It hears, something is wrong. It hears, I am not safe without this. And safety closes. That's why effort increases and results disappear. This is why manifestation collapses under urgency. Reality follows familiarity. If lack feels familiar, wanting reinforces it. This is why people who relax receive faster. Not because they stop caring, but because they stop signaling absence. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Because need is not a request. It is a declaration. It declares, I am separate from this. And reality agrees. Look at how this plays out in real life. An entrepreneur who wants success is tense. They overwork. They overexplain. They overreact. Every setback feels personal. Every delay feels dangerous. Their nervous system is chasing. Another entrepreneur expects success. They move steadily. They adjust without panic. They rest without guilt. They don't emotionally attach to every outcome. Same goal. Different internal state. Different result. Expectation is quiet. Wanting is loud. Reality listens to what's consistent, not what's dramatic. This is why people confuse passion with pressure. Pressure is fear dressed up as ambition. And fear always slows manifestation. You don't chase what you expect. This applies everywhere. In relationships, wanting creates tension. When someone wants approval, they seek validation. They monitor reactions. They alter themselves. The nervous system is chasing, and the other person feels it. But when someone expects connection, they are relaxed. They speak freely. They listen openly. They don't chase responses. Connection follows. Reality follows familiarity. In money, wanting creates scarcity loops. Someone wants money, so they worry. They worry, so they monitor constantly. They monitor, so they reinforce lack. Money becomes emotional, and emotional money is unstable. Someone who expects money treats it casually. They manage it. They circulate it. They trust it. Money stays. Expectation stabilizes reality. Wanting destabilizes it. This is why techniques don't work when they are fueled by desperation. Visualization done from wanting amplifies absence. Affirmations done from lack rehearse disbelief. Words don't override nervous system signals. The system listens to your body. Is your body calm or contracted? Is it settled or urgent? That state is the instruction. Your frequency is a product code, and wanting broadcasts the wrong one. This is why manifestation becomes effortless when you stop trying. Trying is chasing. Chasing is lack. Lack delays. Receiving happens when the body feels safe enough to allow. This is not about giving up desire. It's about releasing urgency. Desire without urgency is expectation. Urgency says, I need this to feel okay. Expectation says, this is already handled. You don't chase what you expect. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to notice when wanting creeps in. Discipline to soften the body. Discipline to return to neutrality. Neutrality is powerful. Neutrality tells reality, this is normal. And reality responds. This is why calm assumption beats intense desire every time. The universe doesn't reward emotional volume. It mirrors emotional certainty. Certainty doesn't need to shout. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time, looking for the thing to save you, looking for the result to complete you, and that very search keeps it away, because searching implies separation. This chapter is about stopping the chase, not stopping movement, stopping urgency. Movement with expectation is aligned action. Movement with wanting is resistance. You've learned why wanting pushes it away. Now comes the next layer. If wanting repels, and expectation attracts, what creates expectation in the first place? It comes from what feels ordinary. You've released the chase. Now it's time to redefine normal.g together. Chapter 5. The Power of What Feels Normal. Your life does not reflect your goals. It reflects your emotional baseline. This is one of the most important distinctions you will ever understand. Goals are intellectual. Baselines are emotional. You can want something intensely and still repel it effortlessly if it does not feel normal to you. Reality does not ask what you are aiming for. Reality asks what you are accustomed to, and then it delivers more of that. Reality follows familiarity. What you repeatedly experience internally becomes your baseline. What becomes your baseline becomes your normal. And what feels normal becomes inevitable. This is why people don't live at the level of their desires. They live at the level of their tolerance. What do you tolerate emotionally? What feels familiar psychologically? What feels safe to expect? That is your true set point. Wealth appears when wealth feels ordinary. Love appears when love feels natural. Confidence appears when confidence feels unremarkable. Not exciting. Not dramatic. Ordinary. This is where manifestation becomes counterintuitive. People believe they must want something intensely, but intensity signals novelty, and novelty signals unfamiliarity. The nervous system does not allow unfamiliar states to stabilize. So reality may visit, but it will not stay. This is why lottery winners often lose everything. They receive massive external change without internal normalization. Suddenly they have money, but money does not feel normal. It feels foreign. It feels unsafe. It feels temporary. So what happens? They overspend. They sabotage. They create chaos. Not because they are irresponsible, because their nervous system is trying to return to baseline. Baseline always wins. Reality follows familiarity. This is why people who grow up wealthy often maintain wealth effortlessly. Not because they work harder, not because they are smarter, because wealth feels normal. Their nervous system is calm around money. They expect it to circulate. They don't panic when it moves. Expectation stabilizes reality. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Because need implies unfamiliarity. And unfamiliarity cannot anchor. This applies to relationships. Someone who is used to chaos will feel bored in peace. Someone who is used to neglect will feel suspicious of care. Someone who is used to rejection will misinterpret interest. Not consciously, automatically. The nervous system seeks what feels normal, even if it hurts. That's why people repeat patterns they say they want to escape. They are not addicted to pain. They are loyal to familiarity. Reality follows familiarity. This is also why confidence cannot be faked long-term. You can act confident temporarily. But if insecurity is your baseline, reality will expose it. Confidence becomes real when it stops being a performance. When confidence feels boring. When confidence is no longer something you do, but something you expect. Expectation removes effort. This is why elite performers look relaxed under pressure. Pressure feels normal to them. Responsibility feels normal. Visibility feels normal. So they don't tense up. Reality responds accordingly. Your frequency is a product code, and baseline frequency is what gets scanned. Not peak moments, not emotional highs. Baseline. This is why motivation fades. Motivation is a spike. Baseline is identity. Manifestation does not care about spikes. It responds to consistency. So what do? You stop chasing big emotional shifts. You stop forcing excitement. You stop trying to convince yourself. Instead, you normalize. You ask a different question. What would this feel like if it were ordinary? Not thrilling. Not dramatic. Just normal. That question alone shifts frequency. Because it removes urgency. It removes wanting. It removes lack. You don't chase what you expect. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to notice your emotional baseline. Discipline to soften exaggerated reactions. Discipline to calm the nervous system. Because calm is familiar to expansion. This is why people sabotage when things go well. Success feels unfamiliar. So they unconsciously recreate struggle. Not because they hate success. Because struggle feels like home. Baseline always wins. Until you consciously shift it. This is not done by force. It's done by repetition. Small exposures. Consistent assumptions. Gentle normalization. You act as if the result is already part of life, not the highlight of it. You stop celebrating too early. You stop fearing loss. You stop defining yourself by outcomes. You let it be ordinary. This is why manifestation masters look unimpressed by results. Not because they lack gratitude, but because they expected it. Expectation collapses surprise. Surprise is novelty. Novelty destabilizes. Normality anchors. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time, looking for permission to feel safe, looking for evidence before relaxing. But relaxation comes first. Normality is an internal decision, and once it's made, reality reorganizes quietly. This chapter is about recalibration. You don't need bigger goals. You need a higher baseline. Because once something feels normal, it stops being optional. Reality follows familiarity. You now understand why wanting doesn't work. You now understand why effort collapses. Now comes the deeper question. If normality is the key, how long does it actually take for reality to adjust? Most people assume time is the barrier. It isn't. You've reset your baseline. Now let's talk about time. Chapter 6. How long manifestation takes. It's instant. Manifestation does not take time. That statement alone rewires everything. Manifestation does not take time. Evidence does. This is where almost everyone misunderstands the process. They assume reality is slow. They assume change is delayed. They assume time is the obstacle. It isn't. The moment expectation shifts, reality begins rearranging. Immediately, without pause, without permission, what you experience as waiting is not reality hesitating. It is reality reorganizing. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. Say it again. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. Reality cannot show you something before you are ready to recognize it. So it moves quietly. This is why manifestation feels invisible at first. Nothing appears to change, but everything has. The internal command has been issued, and systems respond instantly. Delay is perception, not process. This is critical. The process is immediate. The perception lags. Just like turning a large ship. The moment the wheel turns, the direction changes. But the movement takes space. Not time. Space. This is why impatience kills manifestation. Impatience assumes nothing is happening, and that assumption interferes. You don't chase what you expect. When you expect, you wait calmly, because calm signals certainty, and certainty stabilizes the system. Reality follows familiarity. This is why people who let go often receive quickly. They didn't surrender the desire. They surrendered the timeline. They stopped monitoring. Monitoring is mistrust. Mistrust introduces resistance. This is why manifestation collapses when people watch the clock. How long is this taking? Why isn't it here yet? Is it working? Those questions are not neutral. They are new signals. They say, this is not normal yet. And reality agrees. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. Look at how this works in real life. An entrepreneur decides, internally, that success is inevitable. Not someday. Now. They stop doubting. They stop questioning. They stop emotionally oscillating. That moment, right there, is the shift. Deals don't sign instantly. Revenue doesn't spike immediately. But conversations change. Decisions sharpen. Opportunities begin aligning. The rearrangement has begun. The delay is perception, not process. An athlete decides they are no longer trying to win. They expect to perform well. Training feels different. Rest feels justified. Confidence stabilizes. The result doesn't appear that second, but the outcome is locked. The system has been updated. Reality follows familiarity. This is why manifestation is not about patience. It's about trusting the update. Once you change the signal, you stop interfering. You don't keep sending new instructions. You don't re-edit the command. You allow the system to execute. Most people sabotage here. They change the signal, then immediately check for evidence. Checking is doubt. Doubt reverts the signal. So the system stalls. Not because it failed, because it received new input. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A calm, steady expectation is stronger than emotional spikes. Your frequency is a product code, and once scanned, the product is prepared. You don't keep reordering the same item. You wait for delivery. This is why people who expect good things experience luck. Luck is simply not interfering. They don't rush the process. They don't second-guess the shift. They live as if it's handled, because to them it is. The people who have the most need it the least, and the people who need it the most have the least. Need watches the clock. Expectation trusts the system. The nervous system plays a role here. When you expect something, your body relaxes. Relaxation tells reality, this is safe. Safety accelerates manifestation. Stress slows it. This is why urgency delays. Urgency says, this must happen now or something is wrong. Reality hears danger, and danger slows systems down. Calm tells reality, this is inevitable. And inevitability moves quickly. You don't chase what you expect. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to not check. Discipline to not question. Discipline to not emotionally react to the absence of evidence. Because absence of evidence is not absence of process. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. This is where faith is misunderstood. Faith is not belief without proof. Faith is behavior that assumes the update worked. You move differently. You speak differently. You decide differently. Not dramatically. Normally. Normality is the anchor. Reality follows familiarity. This is why manifestation masters appear patient. Not because they are waiting, because they are certain. Certainty has no urgency. Urgency implies doubt. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time, looking for confirmation, looking for reassurance. But confirmation comes last. First comes the signal, then the rearrangement, then the reveal. This chapter removes the illusion of time. Manifestation is instant at the level that matters. The delay you perceive is simply the world catching up. And once you understand that, impatience dissolves. You stop asking, when? And you start living as if it's done. Because internally, it is. You've learned that manifestation doesn't take time. Now comes the next refinement. If expectation is the signal, and familiarity anchors it, why do so many visualization techniques fail? You understand timing. Now let's correct the tool. Chapter 7. Why visualization fails most people. Visualization is not the problem. Effort is. Most people are not visualizing incorrectly. They are visualizing from the wrong state. Visualization without emotional neutrality creates resistance. That single misunderstanding has wasted more time than almost any other concept in manifestation. People are taught to imagine intensely, to feel excited, to generate emotion, and they assume emotion equals effectiveness. It doesn't. Emotion is fuel, but neutral emotion is what stabilizes reality. Excitement is not neutral. Excitement signals novelty, and novelty signals unfamiliarity. Reality follows familiarity. This is why visualization often backfires. People imagine success and feel a rush. They imagine wealth and feel exhilarated. They imagine love and feel euphoric. And then they crash. Because excitement is not expectation. Excitement says, this is amazing because it's not normal. Expectation says, of course this is happening. One creates resistance. The other creates alignment. The nervous system does not anchor what feels extraordinary. It anchors what feels ordinary. This is why visualization done with emotional intensity often increases wanting. Wanting confirms lack. Lack delays. You don't chase what you expect. Excited visualization is chasing internally. It's rehearsing the absence of the thing, not the presence. That's why people finish visualization sessions feeling good, but live unchanged. They visited a fantasy. They did not normalize a reality. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. But the signal must be clean. Over-effort signals disbelief. This is critical. When you try to visualize correctly, when you force emotion, when you concentrate intensely, you are telling the system, this is not natural for me. And reality listens. Look at people who get results effortlessly. They don't visualize dramatically. They assume quietly. Calm assumption beats excited imagining every time. This is observable everywhere. An athlete doesn't visualize victory with fireworks. They expect performance. Their inner imagery is calm, routine, almost boring. Winning feels familiar. So when pressure arrives, they don't spike emotionally. Their body recognizes the moment as normal. Reality follows familiarity. A performer who expects applause doesn't imagine the crowd screaming with intensity. They walk on stage relaxed. They breathe normally. They trust the process. Expectation stabilizes presence. This is why people who visualize from desperation fail. They imagine because they don't have. They imagine because they are hoping. They imagine because they are trying to convince themselves. Convincing implies doubt. Doubt scrambles the signal. Visualization is only powerful when it confirms what you already assume is true, not when it tries to override disbelief. This is why affirmations and visualizations collapse when they are emotional. Emotion without neutrality creates instability. The people who have the most need it the least, and the people who need it the most have the least. Need drives emotional visualization. Expectation dissolves it. Visualization should feel calm, almost uneventful. If your visualization feels thrilling, it's too far from your baseline. Baseline is where manifestation anchors. Your frequency is a product code, and the system scans for consistency, not excitement. This is why repetition matters more than intensity. A small, neutral assumption repeated daily is stronger than a dramatic visualization done occasionally. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to stop chasing emotional highs. Discipline to stop trying to feel it real. Discipline to let the image be ordinary. The moment you visualize something and feel relief instead of excitement, you're doing it correctly. Relief says, this is handled. Excitement says, this is missing. The nervous system responds accordingly. This is also why people sabotage after good visualizations. They feel uplifted. Then reality doesn't immediately change. Then disappointment appears. Disappointment is expectation revealing itself. Expectation was not aligned. Expectation was hope. Hope waits. Expectation assumes. You don't chase what you expect. Visualization is not about seeing more. It's about reacting less. When you can imagine the outcome and feel calm, you've aligned. When you imagine the outcome and feel emotional, you've revealed resistance. This is valuable information. Visualization is diagnostic. It shows you how familiar the outcome actually is. If imagining wealth makes you excited, wealth is unfamiliar. If imagining love makes you anxious, love is unsafe. If imagining success makes you tense, success is unstable. These reactions are not problems. They are signals. Awareness is control. Once you see the reaction, you soften it. You return to neutrality. You repeat the image until it loses charge. When the image becomes boring, it becomes real. Reality follows familiarity. This is why masters of manifestation don't visualize often. They live in assumption. Their daily thoughts already confirm the outcome. They don't need rehearsal. This is why visualization is a beginner tool. Advanced manifestation is expectation management. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time, looking for techniques to convince reality, looking for emotions to force results. But reality doesn't need convincing. It needs consistency. This chapter corrects a major misunderstanding. Visualization does not create reality. Expectation does. Visualization only works when it confirms expectation. Otherwise, it exposes disbelief. You now understand why effort fails, why excitement delays, why calm accelerates. You've corrected the tool. Now comes the deeper mechanism. If visualization is secondary, if expectation is primary, where does expectation actually come from? It comes from structure. You've refined the method. Now let's examine the mechanics. Chapter 8. The Mechanics of Materialization. Manifestation follows an order, not a philosophy, not a belief, an order. When you understand the order, confusion disappears. Thought leads to emotion. Emotion stabilizes into identity. Identity drives behavior. Behavior shapes environment. Thought, emotion, identity, behavior, environment. This is the sequence. Break the sequence, and manifestation collapses. Try to skip steps, and reality resists. Most people attempt to jump from thought straight to environment. They think positive thoughts and wait for results. They visualize outcomes and expect reality to comply. It doesn't, because reality does not respond to thought alone. It responds to identity. Say it clearly. You don't get what you think, you get who you are. Thought is a suggestion. Identity is a command. Thoughts come and go. Identity stays. This is why affirmations fail when they don't alter self-concept. You can think about wealth and still identify as someone who struggles. And reality follows identity. Reality follows familiarity. Emotion is the bridge. A thought repeated with emotion becomes belief. A belief repeated becomes identity. An identity becomes automatic behavior. This is where manifestation locks in. Once behavior changes naturally, environment must follow. This is mechanical. This is why skipping identity causes collapse. People imagine success but still see themselves as trying. They think abundance but still identify as behind. They visualize love but still identify as unchosen. And reality mirrors that perfectly. The system is not broken. It is precise. Your frequency is a product code. An identity is the strongest frequency you broadcast. This is why people revert after breakthroughs. They experience external change without internal identity shift. So behavior slowly returns to baseline. An environment follows. This is why lottery winners lose money. This is why sudden fame destroys people. This is why quick success often collapses. Identity did not update. Behavior had no foundation. Reality followed familiarity. This also explains why people with strong identities succeed even without perfect thoughts. They don't think positively all the time. They don't visualize constantly. They simply know who they are. An athlete who identifies as a winner doesn't need affirmations. A leader who identifies as capable doesn't need reassurance. An entrepreneur who identifies as successful doesn't panic at obstacles. Identity absorbs stress. This is why manifestation stabilizes when identity shifts. Once something becomes who I am, effort disappears. Behavior becomes obvious. This is why trying to force behavior rarely works. Behavior without identity feels heavy. Behavior with identity feels natural. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to stop trying to act different. Discipline to start seeing differently. Identity is perception. How do you see yourself in moments of pressure? How do you describe yourself internally? What feels normal for someone like you? Those answers shape reality more than any technique. You don't get what you think, you get who you are. This is why emotional reactions matter. Emotion reveals identity. If success makes you anxious, your identity is not aligned. If money makes you tense, scarcity is still present. If visibility feels unsafe, identity is contracted. These reactions are data. Awareness is control. You don't judge the data. You adjust the identity. Identity changes through repetition of experience, not imagination. Experience. You place yourself in situations that reflect the new identity, even mildly. You act from assumption, not force. You ask, what would someone who expects this do naturally? And then you do that. Calmly. Normally. Not dramatically. Reality follows familiarity. This is why manifestation accelerates when people stop working on themselves and start being. Being precedes doing. Doing precedes having. Thought, emotion, identity, behavior, environment. Skip identity, and you chase forever. This is why motivation fades. Motivation is thought-based. Identity is permanent. This is also why self-talk matters. Not affirmations. Assumptions. How you speak to yourself when no one is listening reveals identity. And reality listens. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Because need contradicts identity. Identity doesn't need proof. It expects confirmation. This is why high-level performers look relaxed. Their identity is stable. They don't hope to perform well. They expect to. Expectation removes tension. Tension signals misalignment. You don't chase what you expect. This chapter gives you the blueprint. Manifestation is not about controlling thoughts. It's about updating identity. Once identity shifts, thoughts align automatically. Behavior adjusts effortlessly. Environment reorganizes inevitably. This is why manifestation feels effortless when done correctly. The work happens upstream. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time, looking for proof, looking for validation. But identity does not wait for proof. Proof follows identity. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. You now understand the mechanics. But mechanics alone are not enough. Identity must be stabilized. And stabilization happens through repetition, through assumption, through daily alignment. So the next question becomes unavoidable. If identity is the real tool, how do you deliberately change it? You've learned the mechanics. Now let's activate the operator. Chapter 9. Identity is the real manifestation tool. Identity is the tool. Not visualization. Not affirmations. Not effort. Identity. Your self-concept sets the ceiling. You can never consistently outperform who you believe you are. You might spike above it temporarily. You might touch outcomes beyond it briefly. But you will return. Because identity always reasserts itself. Reality follows familiarity. This is why manifestation feels inconsistent for most people. They touch success, then lose it. They feel confident, then collapse. They experience abundance, then self-sabotage. Not because something went wrong, because identity did not change. You don't get what you think, you get who you are. This is the law operating cleanly. Identity is the story you no longer question. It's not what you say publicly. It's what you assume privately. It's how you expect people to treat you. It's how you predict outcomes before they happen. It's how you explain events to yourself afterward. That internal narration is identity. And identity sets the ceiling. This is why people can read the same books, hear the same advice, and get wildly different results. Information does not override self-concept. Identity filters information. If something aligns with identity, it's accepted. If it contradicts identity, it's rejected. Automatically. This is why confident people don't try to be confident. They don't monitor their posture. They don't rehearse their words. They don't force eye contact. They expect respect. Expectation produces behavior without effort. Confidence is not behavior. It is assumption. Someone who identifies as capable speaks differently, moves differently, decides differently. Not because they practice confidence, because confidence is normal to them. Reality follows familiarity. This is why trying to act confident feels exhausting to someone with a weak self-concept. They are fighting identity, and identity always wins. This is also why advice often fails. Advice targets behavior. Manifestation is driven by identity. Change identity, and behavior adjusts automatically. No force required. No motivation required. This is why true transformation looks subtle. Someone changes identity, and suddenly, they say no without guilt. They stop over-explaining. They choose differently. And from the outside, it looks like confidence appeared. It didn't. Identity updated. Your frequency is a product code. And identity is the strongest frequency you emit. This is why people live inside invisible ceilings. They say they want more, but more feels unfamiliar. They say they want respect, but expect dismissal. They say they want abundance, but identify as behind. And reality obeys. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Because need contradicts identity. Identity does not beg. Identity expects. This is also why trauma lingers. Trauma is not the event. It's the identity formed afterward. I am unsafe. I am not chosen. I must struggle. Those identities create reality long after the event is gone. And manifestation continues automatically. This is not blame. This is empowerment. Awareness is control. Once you see identity, you can change it. But you don't change identity by arguing with it. You change it by living from a new assumption. Identity shifts when new behavior is repeated calmly. Not dramatically. Not heroically. Normally. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to stop telling old stories. Discipline to stop reacting from old assumptions. Discipline to choose responses aligned with the new identity. Not once. Repeatedly. This is why manifestation requires patience, not with reality, but with identity. Identity resists sudden change. It prefers gradual normalization. You introduce the new identity gently. How would someone who expects this respond? What would be normal for someone like that? Then you do that, without announcing it, without proving it, without forcing it. You let it feel ordinary. Reality follows familiarity. This is why confident people appear unbothered. They don't take things personally. They don't overinterpret. Their identity absorbs friction. This is also why identity change feels uncomfortable at first. Unfamiliar identity triggers resistance. The nervous system says, "This isn't us." And that's okay. Discomfort is not failure. It's recalibration. You don't chase what you expect. So you don't rush identity change. You allow it to settle. You repeat new assumptions until they stop feeling new. Once identity stabilizes, manifestation becomes automatic. You stop thinking about results. Results chase you. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time. Looking for tools. Looking for techniques. Looking for proof. But identity doesn't wait for proof. Proof follows identity. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. This chapter is the turning point. You now know the real lever. Manifestation is not about attracting more. It's about being different. Not better. Different. Once identity shifts, behavior aligns. Once behavior aligns, environment must follow. That is law. Now comes the practical obstacle most people face. They overthink. They hesitate. They analyze. And analysis delays embodiment. You found the tool. Now let's remove the block. Chapter 10: Overcoming Analysis Paralysis. Thinking is not always thinking. Most of the time, it is fear in disguise. Fear wears a mask called analysis. It says, "I'm just gathering information. I need to plan carefully. I want to be ready." But the truth is, fear does not want action. Fear wants stasis. Fear wants to stay safe. Fear wants you to spin in circles. And you obey because thinking feels productive. It feels like progress. But it is the opposite. Analysis paralysis is not caution. It is resistance. It is identity lagging behind desire. You don't get what you think, you get who you are. And fear disguises itself as logic to protect the old identity. Most people fail not because they are incapable. They fail because they are emotionally charged against movement. You see, manifestation is law. It requires alignment. It requires momentum. Momentum comes from action. Action collapses resistance. You can think endlessly about the perfect strategy, the perfect moment, the perfect way. But until you move, the nervous system remains stuck. The energy remains stagnant. The frequency remains unchanged. Movement beats perfection. Say it aloud. Repeat it in your mind. Feel it in your body. Movement beats perfection. This is not about reckless action. This is about action without emotional charge. Action without emotional charge does not fight resistance. It bypasses it. It moves the system forward naturally. Think about athletes. They don't think about every tiny detail before taking the shot. They train. They prepare. Then they execute. Movement precedes evaluation. The nervous system understands movement. It does not understand endless thought. Action is the signal. Analysis is not. You felt this. How many times have you known what to do but frozen? How many times have you created brilliant plans that never left the page? Fear disguised as thinking. Excuses disguised as reasoning. You are not broken. You are human, and human nature loves familiar patterns. But this is also why transformation is inevitable once you take consistent action. Your baseline shifts with repeated movement. Your identity shifts with repeated movement. Your frequency changes with repeated movement. Movement beats perfection. Even imperfect action sends the right signal. The moment you act, you tell the universe, I am capable. I am moving. I am aligned. That is more powerful than endless planning. That is more powerful than forced visualization. That is more powerful than thinking about how hard it will be. Fear cannot resist motion. It can slow you. It can whisper doubts. It can make you question your choices. But it cannot stop someone who simply moves. Action reduces internal conflict. It clarifies thought. It strengthens identity. You see, thought alone without alignment breeds indecision. Thought without action is self-doubt on a loop. Thought without movement is a signal of fear. And fear delays manifestation. Movement beats perfection. Remember, the people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Need watches. Movement acts. Need hesitates. Movement aligns. Action without emotional charge collapses resistance. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to stop overthinking. Discipline to stop waiting for certainty. Discipline to do, even when it feels small. Small, consistent steps accumulate faster than one giant leap. Your frequency is a product code. Movement updates the product code. Analysis delays the update. Look at entrepreneurs. The ones who fail do not lack skill. They lack forward motion. The ones who succeed do not wait for perfect clarity. They act. They correct. They iterate. This is the system of reality. Action triggers alignment. Movement informs identity. Identity informs behavior. Behavior rearranges environment. Movement beats perfection. It beats perfection because the nervous system cannot argue with motion. It cannot resist repeated alignment. It cannot ignore consistent signal. Fear, doubt, hesitation, they are loud only when you are still. Move and they dissolve. Even mistakes are informative. Even imperfect execution reinforces identity. Even small steps shift the baseline. Reality follows familiarity. Movement creates familiarity. Familiarity becomes normal. Normality becomes inevitable. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time. Looking for safety. Looking for clarity. Looking for permission. But movement gives permission first. Do. Act. Repeat. Movement beats perfection. And this is the secret that separates those who succeed at manifestation from those who endlessly plan. The universe responds to action. It responds to signals. It responds to identity in motion. And now, having overcome analysis paralysis, the next step is obvious. You've mastered thinking less and moving more. You've shifted the signal. You've sent the frequency. Now, let's examine how to focus that movement with precise energy. Chapter 11. The best technique for manifestation. Manifestation has many techniques. Many methods promise results. Many systems claim secrets. But there is one technique that works every time. The assumption technique. Calm expectation. Zero urgency. No forcing. No convincing. This is not about wanting. This is not about hoping. This is not about effort. It is about knowing. You don't convince the world. You relax into knowing. Say it again. You don't convince the world. You relax into knowing. That is the power. That is the simplicity. Most people misunderstand manifestation because they try to convince. They try to push, pull, plead, or strategize. They imagine, visualize, and affirm. And then they panic when the evidence doesn't appear instantly. This is unnecessary. Manifestation is not a negotiation. It's a recognition. It's a settling into reality that already exists. Think of it this way. Ordering food at a restaurant. You do not beg the waiter. You do not plead for the food. You do not imagine it frantically in your mind. You assume it will arrive. You place the order calmly. You relax. And it comes. Now imagine if you approached the waiter with panic. If you argued. If you tried to convince them to bring the food faster. The process slows. You signal resistance. You disrupt the flow. Manifestation works the same way. Calm assumption signals the universe. I am ready. I am aligned. I do not need to chase. Urgency contradicts identity. Urgency contradicts expectation. Urgency contradicts calm. You don't need to convince reality. You simply relax into it. The nervous system understands this. It responds to certainty, not desperation. It absorbs calm expectation and adjusts behavior naturally. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Need creates urgency. Urgency signals lack. Lack delays manifestation. Assumption removes lack. Assumption removes urgency. Assumption communicates certainty. Here's how to practice it. Step 1. Identify your desire. Know precisely what you want. Not vaguely. Not emotionally desperate. Clearly. Step 2. Place yourself in the assumption. Internalize it as already happening. Feel it as normal. Not extraordinary. Not exciting. Ordinary. Step 3. Observe your reactions. If panic, excitement, or doubt arise, notice them. Do not fight. Do not resist. Simply return to calm expectation. Step 4. Act as if it is done. Small actions, natural actions, decisions aligned with the reality. Do not force. Do not exaggerate. Step 5. Repeat. Consistency anchors the signal. Frequency is the product code. Frequency solidifies reality. Real-world example. Entrepreneurs do this naturally. They don't plead with investors. They assume the funding will arrive. They pitch with calm expectation. They walk as if success is normal. And the deals align. Athletes do this naturally. They do not beg for victory. They train. They perform. They expect results calmly. They relax into the outcome. And it comes. Even in relationships, this applies. You do not chase love desperately. You assume worthiness. You expect connection calmly. You let people respond to your signal naturally. Desperation repels. Calm draws. Repetition is essential. Assumption is not a one-time effort. It's a lifestyle. You live as the person who already has what you desire. You speak as them. You decide as them. You feel as them. You are the shiniest object in the universe. You do not look outside yourself. You radiate certainty. The nervous system absorbs this. Behavior adjusts naturally. Environment shifts automatically. You don't convince the world. You relax into knowing. And here's the subtle genius. When done correctly, you feel no urgency. You do not monitor. You do not chase. You do not hope. You simply be. Because being aligned is the fastest, most efficient signal you can send. Assumption collapses all resistance. It removes doubts. It organizes reality around the natural expectation. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. Remember, manifestation is not an event. It is a system. Assumption is the steering wheel. Calm expectation is the fuel. Identity is the signal. Movement beats perfection, but assumption refines movement. It ensures motion aligns with reality's law. When you relax into knowing, everything moves without effort. The universe is not persuaded by excitement or begging. It obeys identity, expectation, and familiarity. This is discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to assume without desperation. Discipline to act without urgency. Discipline to feel normal while extraordinary unfolds. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Calm expectation attracts naturally. Desperation repels automatically. This is the best technique for manifestation. And now, once you have aligned with assumption, the next step is understanding the power of your inner signal and external reality. Chapter 12. Detachment is not giving up. Detachment is misunderstood. Most people think it means giving up, walking away, stopping caring. This is false. Detachment is trust. Detachment is alignment. Detachment is knowing. It is calm expectation without panic. Relaxed certainty is power. Say it again. Say it aloud. Feel it in your body. Detachment is not giving up. Detachment is trust in the system. Trust in yourself. Trust in the process. Most manifestation techniques fail because people cling. They push. They beg. They try to control timing, circumstances, and people. Control is resistance. Resistance delays results. Detachment does not mean you stop acting. It means you act without emotional charge, without anxiety, without desperation. Emotional neutrality accelerates results. Think of a child learning to ride a bike. A panicked parent gripping the seat delays learning. A calm parent letting the child adjust naturally accelerates mastery. Manifestation works the same way. Relaxed certainty is power. Detach from panic. Detach from urgency. Detach from need. And watch reality rearrange itself. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Need is emotional attachment. Attachment signals lack. Lack delays. Detachment signals trust. Trust stabilizes frequency. Frequency broadcasts alignment. Detachment is not apathy. It is active expectation. You still desire. You still act. You still engage. But you do so from calm assumption. Not from fear. Not from desperation. Think of an entrepreneur negotiating a deal. The desperate founder begs for the investor's approval. The calm founder negotiates from assumption of alignment. The outcome is dramatically different. Relaxed certainty is power. This is why the nervous system loves detachment. It absorbs calm expectation. It integrates alignment. It reinforces identity. Attachment drains energy. Detachment channels energy. Every time you obsess over timing, method, or outcome, you add resistance. Every time you relax into certainty, you remove it. Relaxed certainty is power. You do not need proof. You do not need validation. You do not need reassurance. Your frequency broadcasts your expectation. Detachment ensures the signal is clean. Even when external circumstances appear chaotic, detachment maintains stability. Even when the desired outcome seems delayed, detachment trusts the process. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. This is law. Detachment is also patience in action. You do not wait passively. You move naturally. You act calmly. You allow time for reality to respond. Movement and detachment together collapse resistance. Action without attachment accelerates results. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. This is why masters of manifestation appear unbothered. They do not panic. They do not overthink. They do not check repeatedly for confirmation. They know. They act. They detach. And the world aligns automatically. Detachment is an internal state. It is a daily practice. It is not situational. You detach from outcome, not from desire. You detach from external validation, not from internal knowing. You detach from resistance, not from alignment. Relaxed certainty is power. Even subtle shifts in internal state amplify manifestation. When you detach emotionally, your nervous system stabilizes. Identity aligns naturally. Behavior flows effortlessly. Environment rearranges without friction. This is why people who cling often fail, even with perfect technique. Technique alone does not overcome attachment. Detachment is the final refinement. It is the transition from trying to being, from panic to calm, from need to expectation, from chaos to order. It is a law-based practice, not a spiritual wish. Relaxed certainty is power. Repeat this daily. Anchor it in small actions. Anchor it in internal dialogue. Anchor it in emotional neutrality. The moment you detach without giving up, manifestation accelerates. If you don't realize that you are the shiniest object in the universe, then you'll be looking outside of yourself every single time. But when you detach correctly, you are already aligned, already confident, already abundant. This is the subtle mastery that separates beginners from masters. And now that you understand detachment, the next step is magnifying focus through belief and identity alignment. Chapter 13, The Role of Action, Why Hustle Backfires. Action is sacred, but most people misunderstand it. They hustle, they grind, they force results. Forced action creates forced results. Say it again. Forced action creates forced results. Repetition embeds understanding. When you push too hard, the nervous system resists. When you over-effort, alignment collapses. When you hustle without identity, reality mirrors struggle, not success. This is the law. This is precise. This is why the majority fail to manifest despite tireless effort. Action must be aligned. Aligned action feels obvious. Aligned action feels natural. Aligned action feels inevitable. You don't have to chase. You don't have to force. You simply notice. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Need hustles. Aligned action flows. Think of inspiration. A great idea arrives. It feels obvious. It compels you to act. It feels almost unavoidable. That is aligned action. Now consider grinding discipline alone. You push. You strain. You make yourself do things that feel heavy. Results may appear temporarily, but they rarely sustain. Why? Identity is not updated. Frequency is inconsistent. Resistance accumulates. Forced action broadcasts struggle. Aligned action broadcasts certainty. Reality listens. Reality mirrors your internal state. Movement beats perfection, yes. But aligned movement beats forced movement every single time. The law is simple. You do not get what you do. You get what you are. Your actions signal your identity. When your actions feel obvious, you are aligned. When your actions feel forced, identity resists. The nervous system knows. Look at elite athletes. They do not force motion in performance. They train. They prepare. They act from alignment. Results appear inevitable. Look at top entrepreneurs. They do not grind mindlessly for years. They listen to inspired ideas. They follow the obvious next step. They act from clarity, not desperation. And the world responds. Forced action creates forced results. Aligned action creates natural results. Even in relationships, the principle applies. You do not force connection. You act in alignment with your identity. You speak naturally. You choose actions that feel normal for someone confident and deserving. The response unfolds naturally. Relaxed certainty is power. Aligned action is expression. Combined, they collapse resistance. This is the subtle difference between struggling to succeed and effortlessly attracting results. Many people confuse hustle with manifestation. They believe effort equals alignment. They mistake struggle for progress. Reality does not care about struggle. Reality responds to alignment. Movement beats perfection. Aligned movement beats forced movement. Always. Frequency is the product code. Forced effort sends mixed signals. Aligned action sends a pure signal. Every action you take broadcasts your internal state. If it is heavy, reality mirrors heaviness. If it is effortless, reality mirrors flow. This is why patience is essential. Patience is not inaction. Patience is alignment while acting. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. You do not convince reality. You signal identity. You move in alignment. Results manifest. The people who have the most need it the least. The people who need it the most have the least. Need pushes. Aligned action pulls. Ask yourself with every action, does this feel obvious? Does this feel natural? Would someone who expects this act differently? If yes, you are aligned. If no, step back, adjust identity, and try again. Alignment precedes action. Action confirms alignment. Action without alignment delays manifestation. Even small steps matter. Even subtle movements in alignment shift frequency. Even tiny actions broadcast identity. Forced action is heavy. Aligned action is effortless. And effortless action is irresistible to the universe. This is why masters of manifestation rarely grind. They rarely hustle desperately. They act naturally, consistently, and obviously. The law is clear. You do not get what you do. You get who you are. Actions are the signal of that identity. The moment you master aligned action, manifestation accelerates. You act without resistance. You move without fear. You trust the process. You observe results unfold naturally. Relaxed certainty is power. Aligned action is expression. Frequency broadcasts identity. Reality follows familiarity. Now that you understand the role of action, the next chapter shows you the final internal alignment tool, the power of belief and emotional conviction. Chapter 14, Signs You Are Aligned. Alignment is subtle. It is quiet. It does not shout. Most people look for grand evidence. They want confirmation in fireworks, applause, or immediate results. They mistake chaos for progress. They confuse resistance with reality. But alignment speaks in whispers. It shows itself in small, consistent ways. This is why mastery of manifestation is invisible before it is obvious. You are aligned when synchronicities begin to appear. Events line up without effort. People show up unexpectedly to confirm your path. Opportunities arrive without chasing. Synchronicities are the universe's way of saying, you are on track. You are aligned. Keep moving. But remember, results often arrive sideways first. Not how you expect. Not when you want. But they arrive. A call comes from a friend at the perfect moment. A payment arrives early. An idea unfolds in your mind that seems random but shifts everything. This is normal. This is the pattern of alignment. Confirmation precedes completion. Say it aloud. Repeat it in your mind. Anchor it in your body. You do not wait for completion to feel certainty. You feel certainty because confirmation is already present. Alignment is also evident in reduced effort. Things that used to feel heavy now feel natural. Decisions that required analysis now feel obvious. Tasks that caused hesitation now flow. This is the nervous system adjusting. Your frequency is shifting. Your identity is broadcasting clearly. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Need complicates movement. Aligned frequency simplifies it. Emotional calm is another unmistakable sign. You no longer panic over timing. You no longer obsess over outcomes. You no longer question yourself. Calm certainty is the natural state of alignment. Relaxed certainty is power. You are aligned when external obstacles no longer derail you. You remain composed. You act naturally. You trust the invisible currents. Even setbacks feel different. Even delays feel like guidance. You notice the sideways signs, the subtle confirmations, the unfolding pattern. Confirmation precedes completion. You can see it in small daily examples. The phone rings at the exact moment you need advice. An email arrives with exactly what you were seeking. A person you were waiting to meet suddenly becomes available. These are not coincidences. These are law. Your frequency signals alignment. Reality mirrors it. When you are aligned, effort does not vanish, it transforms. It becomes intentional. It becomes obvious. It becomes natural. Misalignment feels like struggle. Alignment feels like ease. You are aligned when you notice the patterns without forcing them. You move with clarity without overthinking. You trust the process without hesitation. Even your emotions become consistent. You do not swing from hope to fear. You do not oscillate between belief and doubt. Your emotional baseline stabilizes at calm, confident expectation. The nervous system absorbs this. Behavior aligns automatically. Frequency broadcasts identity. Reality follows familiarity. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Need complicates frequency. Calm expectation simplifies it. Even when results are not yet obvious, the signs of alignment are clear. Synchronicities, ease, calm, and sideways confirmations are undeniable signals. The universe is already responding. You simply notice it. You simply observe it. You simply maintain alignment. Every small confirmation reinforces identity. Every subtle synchronicity strengthens frequency. Every calm observation compounds alignment. Confirmation precedes completion. Once you internalize this, you stop chasing evidence. You stop demanding results. You stop forcing. Instead, you relax. You act naturally. You align consistently. And manifestation flows. This is mastery. This is law. This is the final internal tool before full realization. You are aligned when confirmation feels normal. You are aligned when effort feels obvious. You are aligned when calm certainty is your natural state. And now, with alignment understood, the final chapter ties all lessons together, showing you how to fully embody manifestation as your daily life. Chapter 15. Living as the person who expects. Expectation is not a technique. Expectation is a lifestyle. It is not something you do once. It is not a tool you pick up and set down. It is the state you inhabit. It is who you are. Masters of manifestation do not manifest. They do not try. They do not hope. They assume. Assumption is effortless. Assumption is calm. Assumption is certainty without proof. Say it aloud. Masters do not manifest, they assume. This is the final step. This is the culmination. This is the embodiment. When you live as the person who expects, your nervous system no longer waits for external validation. Your identity no longer questions the outcome. Your frequency aligns naturally. Expectation becomes natural. Expectation becomes obvious. Expectation becomes habitual. You wake up expecting. You speak expecting. You act expecting. Every decision, every word, every action broadcasts alignment. Even when circumstances appear uncertain, expectation does not waver. Even when results are delayed, the signal remains pure. Even when the world seems chaotic, your internal state is steady. Relaxed certainty is power. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Need is panic. Expectation is calm. Expectation is authority. This is why masters never manifest. They assume. They assume because they already live as the version of themselves who has what they desire. They assume because their identity is aligned. They assume because their internal signal broadcasts certainty. This is the difference between effort and flow, between struggle and natural expression, between chasing and being. Your frequency is a product code. Expectation solidifies that code. Identity ensures consistency. Behavior broadcasts alignment. Reality mirrors familiarity. The universe responds to this. Not to panic. Not to hope. Not to desperation. It responds to calm expectation. It responds to identity in motion. It responds to lifestyle. Even small acts of daily life are now manifestations of expectation. The coffee you order, the meeting you attend, the conversation you initiate. Every choice, every interaction, every movement signals your alignment. Masters do not stress. Masters do not panic. Masters do not force. They act naturally, effortlessly, inevitably. Reality rearranges around them. Opportunities appear. Synchronicities flow. Confirmation precedes completion. Relaxed certainty is power. Expectation becomes lifestyle. Manifestation becomes automatic. Think about entrepreneurs, athletes, creators, leaders. They do not manifest success, they live it. They do not chase wealth, they embody abundance. They do not convince others, they radiate confidence. They do not plead, they assume naturally. This is the internal mastery that transforms manifestation from a tool into a way of life. Even setbacks now appear differently. You do not panic. You do not resist. You observe. You adjust. You act with calm expectation. Every delay, every obstacle, every challenge becomes a signal that your alignment is still intact, a signal that you are learning, a signal that your lifestyle is guiding reality toward inevitable results. The signal changes first. The evidence follows. This is the law. This is reality. This is manifestation perfected. The moment expectation becomes lifestyle, everything changes. Your identity no longer questions. Your behavior no longer hesitates. Your frequency no longer wavers. You do not need proof. You do not need confirmation. You do not need permission. Because you already live as the person who expects. The people who have the most need it the least. And the people who need it the most have the least. Need dissolves. Expectation reigns. Identity broadcasts certainty. Reality follows familiarity. Every day is now practice. Every moment is now alignment. Every choice is now a broadcast of who you already are. You no longer manifest. You simply are. The world responds. Synchronicities appear. Opportunities arrive. Confirmation precedes completion. Relaxed certainty is power. Expectation is life. Assumption is law. This is the ultimate mastery. This is the final step of transformation. This is living as the person who already has what they desire. And now, with all chapters complete, we conclude. Everything you've learned, identity, assumption, alignment, detachment, action, normality, frequency, is now your lifestyle. You are the shiniest object in the universe. You do not chase. You do not plead. You do not struggle. You expect. You act in alignment. You live as reality itself has already rearranged. You are manifestation embodied. In closing, everything you have heard comes down to one truth. You are not here to force reality. You are here to expect it. The moment you stop asking if it will happen and start knowing when it confirms, the game changes. Manifestation becomes quiet, simple, obvious. You don't wake up wondering if the sun will rise. You don't hope gravity works. You expect it. That is the level this audiobook was designed to bring you to. Not excitement, not obsession, expectation. From this moment forward, watch your inner dialogue. Watch what feels normal. Watch what you tolerate. Because your life will continue to match those standards with perfect accuracy. Here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, do not affirm. Do not visualize. Do not chase. Instead, assume. Assume it is handled. Assume it is rearranging. Assume confirmation is inevitable. Speak less. Trust more. Move when it feels obvious. Rest when it feels complete. And when the evidence shows up, as it always does, remember this moment. Because you didn't attract it. You didn't earn it. You expected it. An expectation always wins.